Hello, welcome back to Hindsight 2020. This is video 12, and I titled this one. You guys are gonna have to forgive me because I had to write some notes down. This is a very important topic for me, so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't forget things. So I titled this one, "Losing the Battle to Win the War: My battles with death, drugs, and sex." So before I get started, I want to say thank you to anyone who's been watching my videos, and if you're new to watching my videos, thank you for being here. Also, right now we're like in a crisis with this COVID-19 coronavirus, statewide shutdowns and everything like that. So I really hope everyone's staying home and remaining calm in your house. I'm finally starting to just settle with the fact that I gotta be home. I'm not used to this, but it's okay. So I hope everyone's being safe and, keeping themselves quarantined so that they don't get anyone else sick, or so you guys don't get sick. So I'll go ahead and jump right into this. So fighting the battles to win the wars. Looking back, a lot of my hardest battles that I had to fight in my own personal life had to deal they came about with death, losing very significant family members in my life from the years starting from 2012 up until 2016. I lost 6 family members in a span of 4 years. So those are really confusing times for me, just with the death alone. So my battle with losing all of these family members, I felt like I was being punished. And I continue to talk about these deaths because they play a very significant role in those years of my life and who I became and what came out of me because of these things that were happening in my life. But looking back, these deaths were definitely a battle, especially when it was they became repeating. It was one after another, and it was in such a short span that I really looked at myself and I was like, okay, God, what have I done so wrong? I felt like it was happening to me because these were very significant people in my life, and when it came to funerals and things like that, I was a big part of the funerals and planning and trying to come up with the money. Now, granted, I did have other family members that were helping. I had a lot of help, but I felt like it was the weight of these deaths. Not all of them, not every single one of them, but a good amount of them. I felt like the weight of, of their funerals and the planning and, getting the money and, everything like that was on my back. So that's why I felt like, I was the one being punished, because it was a lot of the weight from these deaths were on me, and I was involved a lot. So the battle with all this was the battle that I had to get through with these deaths was, to realize that God isn't punishing me, and people dying isn't my fault, and that it's not something that God did specifically to teach me a lesson. These deaths that happened, with my family, people, they died because of the way that they lived their lives and the things that they've done, and ultimately that had nothing to do with me. Although I was severely affected by it, it wasn't as a result of anything that I did. And that was a battle that I had to fight. I had to fight with myself for a long time. Like, I really had to forgive myself. I had to forgive myself for the way that I was towards certain people before they died, and then the way I was with people after these deaths happened. So I had to battle myself in that way. And out of battling these deaths and my thought process to them, it led me down a path of drugs, getting involved in street drugs. I did Molly's, I did cocaine, I was popping perks and oxys, and I drank heavily. Like, I always drank, I always liked my beer. That's always something that I did, but it definitely got worse. I never did drugs before 2012. But that year, once, things started happening, I started to experiment in that way. And I battled with drugs because I think deep down, like looking back now, deep down, drugs was a way for me to punish myself. I can't really say I didn't want to live. It wasn't that I didn't want to live or I wanted to kill myself or anything like that, but I definitely was punishing myself. I definitely was feeling sorry for myself, and I definitely didn't want to deal with reality of I'm this bad person, and God punished me by taking all these people that I loved and that I felt that I needed in my life, So I punished myself by using drugs to cope, and just getting involved with these drugs, and and just not caring much about my own personal life. Instead of me trying to overcome and move on, I was stuck. I was just stuck, being miserable, and just in this space of just wanting to inflict pain on myself, and that's what I did. That's what I did for probably about 2 years. The other battle that I had going on inside me, and this actually stemmed from childhood, which is sex. My idea on sex and like the role that I played with having sex as a young woman at the time, because I lost my virginity at 13. So my role as a young girl and my role as an adult, as far as sex goes, that was a battle within myself that I didn't realize until later in life. I honestly can say that I didn't know my worth to a man or to any relationship, because I dated women. I didn't know my role as far as sex goes when it came to relationships or just having sexual relations. I engaged in a lot of I don't want to use the word a lot because it just sounds bad. But I engaged in too many sexual encounters with men and women, not knowing who I was. And I gave my body away to people who just wanted to use my body for their pleasures, while in my mind it was more about trying to connect with people in a way that I really didn't even know how I wanted to connect. I just, in my mind, sex to me was a way to connect or a way to feel like I was somebody. And like that's how I felt. Like the whole thing with, you know, when someone tries to court you to have sex, like they always make you feel good. You know, like nobody comes up to you and just says, "Yo, let's do this." Like it's always like they try to make you feel good and attractive, and they try to, you know, they just try to court you in whatever way they have to get you to give them what they want. And for me, like, I didn't know myself enough, and I didn't know my self-worth enough to engage in these sexual encounters. And it left me, like, through the years of doing this, it left me feeling like disappointed over and over and over and over again. Like, it made me feel like I wasn't anything, you know, like, after you give your body away, you know, for women, for women, sex isn't the same as it is for men. You know, men, they go and they have sex and it's nothing, you know, that's it. That's all it doesn't take their soul, you know, like for men, I think they are taking souls when they have sex with women, but for women, we're not taking your soul. We're not really taking a piece of you. But for men, like, you actually are taking a piece of this woman, you know, and if you're engaging in sex with a woman that you have no intentions to love, or you lied to her to get her to do that with you, you really are taking her soul. And each time that happens to a woman, you know, her soul is taken. And eventually, like, as I got into, you know, my adulthood, I didn't have a kid. I had, you know, different serious relationships. And at the end of the day, like, I still felt like I was nothing. Like, I didn't mean much to these people that I was in a relationship with, other than what I could give them as far as like a place to live, a car to drive, or money, or my body. Because unfortunately, I didn't really have past relationships with people who were on the same like level and status in life as I was. Like, I always had my own, and I dated people who were way beneath my standards. Well, I'm gonna say standards because I can't really say I had a whole lot of standards at the time, but I dated people who were beneath me in a way of status. So I felt used a lot. So sex was definitely a battle for me because I'm a Pisces. I'm a Pisces woman. I'm very loving, and I want to believe that people are who they are. Like, I want to believe that people are what they say they are, and, you know, that person that they give me, I want to believe that it's them. I can't really say that I fall in love. I don't really fall in love, but I fall in love with the idea of love a lot of times. Well, I used to. And in return, like, I will give myself away in ways that really wasn't true. And in the end, like, you know, I'd just be torn down more and more. So these were definitely, like, these three, like, death, drugs, and sex, to me, like, looking back, they were all battles for me, that I had to really fight through. Like, I had to really come to terms with these three, you know, major, like, conflicts in my life. And in the end, like, I don't know, like, I came out of them, you know, I came out of these battles, like, definitely with death. Like I said, I battled that because I thought I was being punished. And I came out of that and I realized that I'm not being punished, and that this is life. You know, I can't escape life. I have a family. You know, people are going to die. And just because people die doesn't mean that it's something that I did. You know, I didn't kill anybody. And I had to realize that in most of these cases, like, my family, like, they passed away due to the way that they lived their life. And it wasn't my fault. Drugs, I had to battle justifying punishing myself, because I didn't have to punish myself. But for some reason at the time, I felt like I needed to punish myself along with I used these drugs to cope with what was going on. But I had to realize that I didn't need to punish myself for anything. And I had to come out of that, to battle that within myself. And, ultimately I stopped using drugs to feel sorry for myself. I don't use drugs at all anymore, but I had to stop. I was able to stop using drugs as I started to accept the fact that I can't punish myself forever because I'm still here. I still have a kid. I have a nephew. I still have a life. And at the time, I think I was probably like 28, 29, maybe 30. And I still had a life to live. I was still young and I still had a purpose here on this earth. So that is something that I had to realize. And then with sex, like I really had to realize that my body is really precious and that giving my body away to people who don't have intentions on loving me or who lied to me to get that piece of me was a choice. It absolutely was a choice. Whereas growing up, for reasons that I don't want to talk about in this video, I didn't feel like it was a choice. So I had to come to terms with my relationship with sex and my self-worth within that sex is a choice. I don't have to give my body away, and that if a connection is ultimately what I'm looking for, I'm not going to find that by giving myself away sexually and giving someone else that physical connection that they're looking for, because ultimately I'm not looking for a physical connection. I'm looking for a mental connection and an emotional connection. So those are all battles. Those are all battles that I feel like I had to come to terms with in order to become me, become the strongest me that I could possibly be. Because all those problems and issues that I had, they weren't real. And they were killing me. Like I wasn't living. Ultimately, I was dying. I was dying inside, and I had to realize that I deserve to live. My worth on this earth is greater, and that I deserve to live, a good life, and I deserve to be with somebody and give my body away to someone who loves me, who wants to marry me, and, wants to use my body for the right reasons. So I don't know. That's it. That's it. I lost those battles. Like I don't know. Like I titled this video "Losing the Battle to Win the War." I do feel like I lost those battles because eventually, I won because I don't give my body away. I don't do drugs, and my relationship with death is a lot different. But those are battles that I was losing in the midst of them. But ultimately, it led to finding myself. And within finding myself, to me, that is the war. The war within myself, the war of who I am now, and the war towards who I'm supposed to be moving forward, I have to read this part. I have to read my hindsight, really what I learned looking back, because it's super long. But so in hindsight, looking back, the battles that we face in life prepare us for what's to come. And if you can make it through... If you can make it through the battle, then you will begin to war with yourself. And that's what I said before. You will begin a war with yourself now and your higher self, which is which is who God intended you to be. So like I said, the war is like who I am now and who God wants me to be, you know, like my purpose in life. And I'll explain why that's a war. But when we learn to weather the hard times, as beat up and broken as we may be and feel, life ultimately doesn't happen to us, it happens for us. And I totally believe that. But know that we will be fighting until we die. But if we can get through the battles, we understand that the wars are a necessary part of elevation. So my relationship now with battles and wars. So I'm calling like this phase of my life the war, because I am always at war with myself. and trying to continue to move forward, and elevate into this person that I know that I'm meant to be. It's a war for me every day. I'm literally fighting to become. You know, I'm at war with not staying the same and continuing to move forward. So for me, that's why I consider the war. And those battles that I faced, they were just battles that prepared me for the war, like for the real war. Because if I didn't go through that, if I didn't go through those things, then there's no way that I would be strong enough to continue to propel myself forward into elevation. So that is all I got for y'all. That's all I got for y'all. But as always, I thank you all for watching my videos. And, you know, comments are always welcomed. If you find yourself like battling some things that you know that you need to get through in order to elevate or to go wherever, you know, God is talking to you, he's telling you that you need to go, talk to me, drop some comments. But as always, like I appreciate you guys listening to my story. And like I said, feedback is always welcome. Drop some comments. And during this time, this statewide shutdown, please stay in your house. Keep everybody safe and stay in your house so we can stop the spread of this, so that I can go back outside, because this quarantine is just, this ain't for me. This ain't for me. But anyway, I love y'all and be safe out here. And yes, tune in next week.